Chapter 1 The Little Boys Selling Candies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Douluo Continent, southwest of the Tiando Empire, Fasno Province, south of Notting City, Holy Soul Village. It is a small village with only about 300 households. It was named after an unknown soul saint who walked out of it. As soon as the genius dawned, there were scattered villagers walking towards the farmland outside the village. On the way, there was a child who looked to be only 5 or 6 years old. He was wearing burlap clothes, with flowing black hair and big black eyes. He smiled very innocently. At this time, there was a square wooden box hanging around his neck, filled with colorful candies. This is made from the honey he dug out from climbing trees, plus various fruits. It is his means of self-reliance. Xiao Qiu, come here, get 2 of your honey orange lollipops for Auntie. That kid in the house is so rare. Okay, Aunt Zhang. Ye Qiu trotted over happily, took out 2 sticks from the wooden box and handed them to the somewhat burly Aunt Zhang. Aunt Zhang also took out 2 copper coins from her arms and placed them in Ye Qiu's little hand. Take it. Thank you, Aunt Zhang. Walk slowly. Ye Qiu waved to Aunt Zhang, who was walking away. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a thin figure flying down from the top of a hill that was only more than 100 meters high adjacent to the Holy Soul Village. That was a child about the same age as Ye Qiu, but his skills were inferior to those of even adults. He is often exposed to the heat of the sun. Compared with Ye Qiu, he looks dark. His clothes are simple but clean, and his short black hair is very neat. Hey! Mistress, you got up so early. Ye Qiu looked at that figure. His eyes flashed with some inexplicable light, waved towards him and shouted loudly. Hearing his voice, Tang San, who was rising up, suddenly stumbled and almost fell down. He frowned and immediately looked around cautiously. Seeing that no one noticed his unusualness, he glanced at Ye Qiu unhappily. Ye Qiu, I've already told you, don't call me that. For the little brats in the village, Tang San had always been unsociable. After that, he stopped showing off his body skills and trotted towards home honestly. TCH, I don't want you to adapt in advance. Ye Qiu curled his lips. He wanted to call out a few times, but he was also afraid of having a few more silent arrows on his forehead. Xiao Qiu. Suddenly, an old voice came. I saw an old man walking in the distance. He looked like he was in his 60s. He was slender, neatly dressed, and his pale hair was meticulously trimmed. He looked energetic. Grandpa Jack, what are you calling me for? Do you need to buy some candy? Ye Qiu ran forward quickly and looked up at the good old man in the village elder Jack. You kid. Okay, give me 5. Old Jack smiled helplessly and took out 5 copper coins from his arms. He also had several grandsons at home. Okay, here you go. Ye Qiu smiled innocently, but he was unambiguous when he collected the money. After placing the coins safely, Ye Qiu looked at old Jack again. Grandpa Jack, tell me, what is it that bothers you to come to the village to find me? Haha. What a clever little guy. Grandpa, I am going door to door to inform those school-age children to participate in the martial arts awakening ceremony in 3 days. Old Jack put his hand on Ye Qiu's head, his eyes full of expectations, which could even be said to be extravagant hopes. So that's it. Ye Qiu blinked and couldn't help but think about it. Okay, remember to participate when the time comes. Grandpa, I still have to go to that old drunkard Tang Hao's place. Yeah. Grandpa Jack, walk slowly. Ye Qiu waved his little hand and said goodbye to old Jack, then put away the smile on his face. He didn't want to sell any more candies, so he walked towards his home holding the box in front of him. It was said to be a home, but it also seemed extremely deserted. It was just a lonely, silent cabin. Like most time travelers, Ye Qiu was a child born in a dystocia and had no companion since birth. I grew up eating baijia food since I was a child. It wasn't until last year that he started digging out honeycombs, barely making a living by himself. Lying on the bed, Ye Qiu let out a long breath. I don't know what kind of martial spirit I will awaken. How many levels of innate soul power can there be? This is what Ye Qiu has been thinking about since he walked all the way. As a student in his previous life, he loved nothing more than reading novels. He was also very familiar with Douluo continent. This is a magical world, and the powerful people in it all have a unified name Soul Master. And a Soul Master's martial soul and innate soul power largely determine the upper limit of a Soul Master. Oh, I hope I can awaken a powerful martial spirit. Otherwise, how can I give them a warm home? As if he thought of something beautiful, Ye Qiu couldn't help but smile. Early in the morning 3 days later, under the leadership of Old Jack, Ye Qiu followed him to the spirit hall in the center of the village. Of course, this so-called Wuhuan palace is just a larger wooden house. Ye Qiu hung a square wooden box around his neck as usual and started selling. There are kids and parents here, but it's a good time to sell candy. Xiao San, how about it? Do you want some too? Ye Qiu came up to Tang San and handed him a grass-flavored lollipop. No need. Tang San shook his head. He was not interested in this kind of gadget. Before he could finish his words, Ye Qiu stuffed the candy into his mouth and walked to another place. He was just being polite. The sniffing sound made by Ye Qiu made Tang San frown. Just after completing a few orders, Ye Qiu finally saw the rumored blind doe rustle Yuntao. It looks good, with a bit of pride and superiority in its eyebrows. After a few polite words with Old Jack, he began his work. Kids, stand in a line. His attitude towards children like Ye Qiu is much gentler. Including Ye Qiu, there were 9 children in total. He, who had just received a small amount of money, was ranked at the back. My name is Su Yuntao, a level 26 Great Soul Master, and I am your leader. I will awaken your martial souls one by one. Remember, don't be afraid no matter what happens later. Su Yuntao briefly introduced himself, then placed 6 black stones in a hexagonal shape on the ground, holding a blue crystal ball in his hand, then motioned to the first child to stand among them. Don't be afraid, close your eyes and feel it carefully. After saying that, Su Yuntao gave a low drink. Lone wolf, possessed. In the horrified eyes of the children, Su Yuntao's muscles were visible to the naked eye. His muscles were bulging, his eyes were bright green, and he had many wolf characteristics on his body. Ye Qiu's eyes also flashed with deep surprise, and he was even a little excited. Chapter 2 Wanxiang Armor Martial Spirit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 6-pointed star surrounded by black stones shimmered with golden light, and the light points entered the boy's body. Stretch out your right hand. Su Yuntao stared at the boy with his green eyes and commanded majestically. The boy subconsciously stretched out his right hand. Suddenly, all the light spots rushed out. In an instant, a sickle appeared in his palm. Okay, let's test our soul power. Su Yuntao handed over the blue crystal ball in his hand and said as usual. Martial Spirit Sickle, no soul power. Next one. Martial Spirit Blue Silver Grass, no soul power. Next one. Soon, the 7 children in front of them had all completed their martial soul awakening. No surprises, they all have no innate soul power and cannot become a noble soul master. It was Tang San's turn. Su Yuntao said almost mechanically. Martial Spirit Blue Silver Grass, soul power. Wait. Hi. Innately full of soul power. Su Yuntao took a breath of cold air. It's actually full of innate soul power. The mature and steady Tang San still awakened the blue grass. Su Yuntao looked at the blue crystal ball in his hand with deep shock in his eyes, but when he thought that the opponent's martial spirit was blue silver grass, he couldn't help but sigh. What a pity. What a pity that he is a useless martial spirit. Waste the martial spirit. Tang San looked blankly at the blue silver grass in his hand. He had no idea about this yet, but as he always practices the Tang sect Xiantian Baolu, he will never reveal everything about himself easily. At this time, he was holding his left hand tightly. There's a hammer there. Okay, next one. After swiping Tang San away, Su Yuntao gathered his emotions and looked at Ye Qiu at the end. Ye Qiu followed suit and stood within the 6-pointed star. A burst of golden light fell on Ye Qiu, and he felt that the blood in his body was boiling. It seemed as if something had broken inside. Wisps of white energy overflowed from Ye Qiu's body. When Su Yuntao saw this, his eyes lit up and he felt a little hope. After a while, a human-shaped, somewhat rounded iron lump appeared behind Ye Qiu. What kind of martial spirit is this? Su Yuntao looked at Ye Qiu's martial spirit in confusion. Ye Qiu also looked at his martial spirit in surprise. The main body is mainly white, and the body is covered with thick armor plates. Each armor plate is engraved with complex patterns and flows with a blue luster, making the entire mecha seamless. The reason why it is said to be somewhat rounded is because its body shape is similar to Ye Qiu at this time. A pair of eyes are shining, and although the limbs are thick, they don't seem to have much sense of aggression. Like an unopened sword, and like a sleeping giant, it will wake up at any time and show its incomparable power. Uncle, my martial spirit is called Wanxiang Jia. Tang San, who was about to leave, stopped because of Su Yuntao's confused voice. Looking at Ye Qiu's mechanical spirit, he became a little curious. Myriad armor? Yes, it told me. Ye Qiu pointed to his martial spirit and nodded. Okay, let's test your innate soul power. Su Yuntao didn't hesitate too much. There were all kinds of strange martial souls in the world, and he couldn't recognize them all. Okay, Ye Qiu nodded. He no longer worried about his innate soul power. He could feel that his martial soul was extraordinary. The little hand covers the crystal ball. In the blink of an eye, the crystal ball sparkled like a bright gem. The dazzling blue halo is exposed, which is indescribably moving. Oh my God! Another innate soul power. Su Yuntao's eyes widened, and he immediately extended an olive branch to Ye Qiu without thinking. This was a good opportunity for him to get a promotion and a salary increase. Child! Are you willing to go to the spirit hall with me? Ye Qiu, who was still a little complacent, suddenly froze the smile on his face when he heard his question. This question is undoubtedly asking him, do you want to die? Tang Hao's old Biden is not a fuel-efficient lamp. If he finds out, he will have to spread his ashes overnight. His thoughts changed rapidly, and Ye Qiu did not refuse immediately, but whispered to Su Yuntao. When Tang San saw that Ye Qiu was also gifted with full soul power, his eyes were suddenly a little surprised. Looking at Ye Qiu, who was communicating with Su Yuntao, he couldn't hear clearly what they were talking about and could only frown. After staying for a while, he left alone. It was time to ask his father to get up and drink porridge. Okay. See you in Nodding City then. After a long time, Su Yuntao saw that Ye Qiu had made up his mind and stopped forcing him. Instead, he took out a pen and paper and wrote 2 certificates for Ye Qiu. One is proof of martial arts, and the other is proof of identity. After getting what he wanted, Ye Qiu was in a good mood and generously treated Su Yuntao to a lollipop. Master, how about it? Are there any children in our village who can become soul masters this year? As soon as Su Yuntao and Ye Qiu came outside with sugar in their mouths, old Jack couldn't wait to greet them. The arrogance on Su Yuntao's face diminished slightly, and his tone became much better. Old Jack, congratulations. This year, there are 2 innate souls in your village. It's a pity that one of them is a useless martial soul. 2 innate souls full of power. Oh my God! Old Jack felt as if he was in a dream and couldn't believe it. He didn't even hear Su Yuntao's last words clearly. Yeah, it's a pity that one of them is the wasted martial spirit blue silver grass. What? There is a useless martial soul named Lan Yin Chao. Old Jack's face was filled with mixed emotions and a bit of sadness. That's a lot of innate soul power. Okay, I'm leaving first. We have to go to the next village. Before old Jack could ask any more questions, Su Yuntao happily walked out of the village. Old Jack lowered his head and saw Ye Qiu, who was very proud, and said in surprise. Xiao Qiu, you are not the one with the innate soul power that the master talks about, right? Yes, it's me. Ye Qiu nodded, took out a piece of paper from his arms, handed it to old Jack, and said at the same time. The other one is Tang San, and his martial spirit is blue silver grass. Haha. I didn't expect you to have such an outstanding talent. Your parents are in heaven and they will definitely be happy for you. Old Jack beamed with joy and squatted down to look at Ye Qiu in front of him, then he looked at the direction Tang San left and sighed. What a pity that kid Tang San has such an alcoholic father. Xiao Qiu, take a good rest during this period. Grandpa will send you to the Soul Master Academy when the time comes. I got it, Grandpa Jack. Now, please have some candy. Seeing old Jack walking towards Tang San's home, Ye Qiu also happily went home. Along the way, Ye Qiu was studying his martial spirit. Ye Qiu also didn't expect that the martial spirit possession of his myriad phase armor actually had two forms. One is to wear it yourself, one is to turn yourself into a mecha and merge with others. The prerequisite for integration is that the other party is willing and does not resist. After merging, the two people can realize the unity of their minds. The specific method of unity has yet to be experienced. Ye Qiu quickly put down the box hanging around his neck and stood in front of a basin. Combining with others is out of the question for the time being, it's better to wear it yourself first. Chapter 3: The Temptation from Tang Hao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ye Qiu tried to activate his martial spirit. Quietly, blue stripes appeared on Ye Qiu's body first, and then the mecha quickly covered his body. After being possessed by the martial spirit, Ye Qiu's body became heavier, and the soil beneath his feet sank slightly. Looking at himself on the water, Ye Qiu was particularly satisfied. After possessing the body, it is no longer rounded, but full of power. The sharp-edged parts all reveal a cold feeling, just like the nano-soldiers in the animation of the previous life. What's strange is that the metal mecha sticks tightly to the body, but it doesn't feel a trace of coldness. With dazzling eyes, you can also see the relevant attributes of some objects, and the flying mosquitoes seem to slow down. Ye Qiu tried to move, but although it was thick, the sound was not loud. Bang! He punched the ground so hard that he was able to make a small hole a few centimeters deep. Picking up the bricks from the pile, Ye Qiu had a great time, amusing himself and performing crazy performances of splitting bricks with his bare hands and breaking bricks with an iron head. He even plucked up the courage to try iron crotch kung fu. In less than 5 minutes, Ye Qiu could no longer hold on and lay on the ground panting. Although tired, his face was full of smiles. Universal armor. In the future, my capital in the Xiaoyao Soul Master world will still be very good. 3 months later, Ye Qiu simply packed his things and followed old Jack to Tang San's home. Old Jack couldn't bear to let Tang San's talent be buried, so he went to another village to ask for a place as a work-study student. In other words, Ye Qiu will go to Notting Junior Soul Master Academy with Tang San. Tang Hao. I have come to send Tang San to Notting City as promised. Ye Qiu and old Jack entered Tang Hao's blacksmith shop together. They were hit by heat waves and the unpleasant smell of alcohol. I saw that the corners on both sides were piled with scraps of metal, as well as bottles and cans that had been filled with low-quality alcohol. Hey, morning. Mistress. Ye Qiu once handed Tang San a candy. Maybe he understood what it meant to have full soul power. This time, Tang San didn't refuse. He put down the forging hammer in his hand and reached out to take Ye Qiu's candy. Thank you. Ye Qiu looked at him in surprise, while Tang Hao, who was sitting at the dining table drinking alcohol and with a slovenly beard, ignored old Jack. He just raised his eyelids and glanced at Ye Qiu lightly. There was no emotion in his cloudy eyes. A hoarse and unpleasant voice sounded. Are you Ye Qiu? The child with innate soul power? It's me, Uncle Tang. Ye Qiu still looked proud, but he was worried about himself. This bastard must have had some twisted thoughts about this delicate little flower like him. Didn't the people from Wuhuan Palace invite you to join them? Tang Hao asked casually as he took a sip of wine, but Ye Qiu's little heart was raised. He explained with a smile. Of course he invited me, and he said he would give me some benefits, but I didn't agree to it. I'm used to being alone, and I still want to be more free. Ye Qiu's big black eyes looked at Tang Hao sincerely. Although he looks like a gentleman, he still looks very deceptive. However, Ye Qiu's words were also half truth and half lie. He really wanted to be more free. Uncle Tang, do you eat candy? Ye Qiu didn't let him say anything more, and held a handful of colorful candies for him to choose from. Okay. Tang Hao glanced at him, nodded slightly, then grabbed all the candies in Ye Qiu's hand with his big hand. The smile on Ye Qiu's face froze visibly, the big black eyes blinked, as if they were about to cry. Seeing this scene, Tang Hao felt at ease. Sure enough, he was still a child. He just took some candies and looked so worthless, but he is born with a lot of soul power, and it can only last for a dozen years. If you train him well, you can become your son's right-hand man. Tang Hao, don't go too far, even grabbing children's things. Old Jack had just finished helping Tang San pack his things when he saw poor Ye Qiu losing a lot of candies. What's the fuss about? Isn't it just some candy? And he gave it to me on his own initiative. Tang Hao didn't even look back, he smacked a few grass-flavored candies and looked intoxicated, as if there was his wife in the candies, he chirped. After thinking about it for a while, he looked at his eldest son. Xiao San, when you are in school, you must take care of each other. Got it, Dad. Tang San nodded obediently and glanced at Ye Qiu, who had a pouty mouth. Old Jack also glared at Tang Hao. You damn drunkard, you finally said something humane. Hearing old Jack's insulting words to his father, Tang San's eyes couldn't help but become cold. Okay, don't cry so much. I'll give it back to you. Tang Hao picked through the grass-flavored ones and returned them to Ye Qiu after eating them. Thank you Uncle Tang. Ye Qiu suddenly beamed with joy, but in his heart he shouted that this old boy had no good intentions. I finally understood why Tang San changed his attitude towards him. Tang Hao squinted his eyes slightly, said nothing, got up and returned to the back room. Dad. Tang San looked at Tang Hao's back and muttered to himself. Eh. Ye Qiu responded softly in his heart, looking at the candy in his hand and smiling all the time. Okay Tang San, don't be reluctant to let go of your alcoholic father. You can still come back in the future. It's time for us to leave. Xiao Qiu, follow us. Got it, Grandpa Jack. Ye Qiu, carrying his own small package, hurriedly followed. As soon as Tang San turned around, Tang Hao's voice came from inside the room. Xiao San, remember what I told you? I remember, Dad. After saying that, Tang San followed Ye Qiu's footsteps and looked at his back thoughtfully. Ye Qiu, who was walking in front, pursed his lips. Only he knew that what Tang Hao said was just for fun, what to use a hammer to protect grass. He had obviously been using grass to cover up the hammer. When Tang Hao saw the blue-silver grass martial spirit, he must have had a mediocre reaction and thought it was useless. As soon as he saw the clear sky hammer, he cried deeply and said frankly that he was indeed my son. Ha Tui, Nodding City is located at the junction of the two empires and is also adjacent to the Star Forest. Holy Soul Village is not far from Nodding City, that is to say, it is very convenient to run around here. Otherwise Tang Hao wouldn't have taken Tang San to live in seclusion here. At the economic level of civilians, communication basically relies on roaring, public security basically relies on dogs, and transportation basically relies on walking. Most have no means of transportation. Ye Qiu and his party walked to Nodding City. During this period, old Jack also talked a lot about soul masters. Ye Qiu was basically familiar with these, but Tang San listened with gusto. The three of them walked for most of the day under the sun, and only had some dry food to fill their stomachs at noon. It wasn't until the afternoon that we saw the city wall in the distance. Although Nodding City is not a big city, it is not far from the border and the city wall is very thick. Routine inspections are also required before entering the city gate. Two little guys, we will send you to the academy later. Please don't wander around in the academy. When the semester is over, Grandpa Jack will come to pick you up. Thank you Grandpa Jack. X2. Well, let's go. Old Jack was also a little helpless. Commoners like them couldn't afford to stay in any hotels, so he had to rush back as soon as possible. Soon, after asking several times, the three of them finally arrived at Nodding College, located in the west of Nodding City. Chapter 4, Kowtow and Acknowledge Father. Please read, page 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The main entrance of Nodding College is a tall arch with a large gilt plaque on it, surrounded by iron fences. There are two gatekeepers at the gate. Stop. Isn't this where you country folk can come? As soon as they got close, a domineering concierge stopped Ye Qiu and the others. Old Jack quickly apologized and said with a smile, "Little brother, these two children are work-study students sent from our village this year." While speaking, he also handed over the certificate of opening of Wuhuan Palace in his hand. You're laughing so hard. How come a phoenix comes out of a henhouse? Is blue-silver grass innately full of soul power? Where does this lyre come from? that the concierge just looked at the certificate above and immediately became very angry. This disdainful tone made Ye Qiu very unhappy. Old Jack's face also looked ugly, but he still swallowed his anger and said, "This is the certificate given by the deacon of Wuhuan Palace in person, we don't dare to forge it." The concierge was even more unhappy when he saw that old Jack actually wanted to use the name of Wuhuan Palace to suppress him. Humph. That's what you think? Returning to the Holy Soul Village, I think it's more like calling it a beggar village. What did you say? The concierge's words undoubtedly offended old Jack, who immediately roared. The concierge was frightened and took a step back. His expression suddenly turned ugly, and there was a hint of sternness on his face. What? Aren't you convinced? I looked at the rags you were wearing and said you were beggars, so I praised you. As he said that, the concierge started to push old Jack's chest. Soon enough, under Ye Qiu's gaze, a thin figure appeared between the two. Ye Qiu's eyes condensed, and his right hand also formed a steel glove, waiting for the opportunity to move. Tang San's small hand quickly cut it off, with a mysterious jade color in it. Due to his height, the hand that should have been cut at the crook of the arm directly grabbed the concierge's wrist. Control the crane and capture the dragon. The hand that could pick up the forging hammer must be very strong, and pain flashed in the concierge's eyes. However, Tang San was unwilling to let go. He swept his calf and hit the crook of his leg, causing the porter to kneel down. In Tang San's surprised eyes, Ye Qiu has quick eyes and quick hands and transforms into Lao Lu. He rushed to the concierge, used his golden right hand that he had practiced for a long time in his early years, and directly gave him two big eye cannons. The concierge quickly covered his eyes in pain and fell to the ground. Xiao San, Xiao Qiu, you. Old Jack stared blankly at the two thin figures standing in front of him. You are seeking death. He was knocked down by two children and gained a pair of panda eyes. The concierge was so angry that he roared and immediately got up from the ground and rushed towards Ye Qiu and the others. Tang San's eyes turned cold. General outline of Xiantian Baolu of Tang sect, Article 3, make sure your opponent is an enemy. As long as he has a way to kill you, don't show mercy, otherwise it will only add trouble to yourself. From the corner of Ye Qiu's eyes, I saw Tang San slightly raising his left hand and quietly opening the safety of the silent sleeve arrow. Just when he was about to give the concierge a small and exquisite throat-locking arrow, a hoarse voice sounded. Enough. Ye Qiu, who was familiar with the plot, immediately understood who was coming. That is Yu Xiaojiang, who has half the template of the protagonist. Master Yu. The concierge was stunned for a moment, and then the anger on his face suddenly turned into flattery. He immediately nodded and bowed. Master, you are back. Ye Qiu and others turned around and saw a man in his 40s or 50s wearing a black academic uniform. The black hair is short, the face is full of stubble, and there are some scrawls. There seemed to be a melancholy hanging over him, a depressing temperament that was both arrogant and decadent, full of contradictions. To put it simply, he is both good at cooking and loving to dress up. The master the concierge mentioned just glanced at him sideways and ignored him. Then he looked at old Jack and said, Old sir, can you show me the certificate from Wuhuan Palace? Seeing the concierge being so respectful, old Jack immediately understood that the person in front of him could help him. He quickly handed over the certificate in his hand. Yu Xiaojiang looked at the certificate and looked at Ye Qiu and Tang San with some surprise. Tang San clenched his fist, and for some reason, he actually felt like he was being looked at. From then on, Ye Qiu understood these two have begun to look at each other, and the gears of fate are about to start turning. This proves that it is all true, old sir. On behalf of the college, I apologize to you for what happened just now. Leave these two children to me. A casual apology gave old Jack great satisfaction. After all, the other party is probably a noble soul master. Old Jack quickly raised his hands. This master is serious. We also have bad local masters, so these two children will trouble you. Yeah. Yu Xiaojiang nodded coldly. Old Jack gave Ye Qiu a few more words. You must be obedient in the academy. Grandpa Jack will leave first. Tang San nodded, but didn't speak. Well, goodbye Grandpa Jack, please be careful on the way back. Ye Qiu waved at old Jack's leaving figure and watched him leave. The master looked at the concierge calmly and said coldly. This is the first and last time, do you understand? I understand, master, please walk slowly." Cold sweat broke out from the back of the concierge. While responding urgently, he quickly got out of the way. Xiaojiang lowered his head to look at Tang San and Ye Qiu, an ugly smile forming on his stiff face. "Come on, let's go in." He stretched out his rough hand and grabbed their little hands. Ye Qiu dodged sideways. For a single middle-aged man of such age, his complexion was still so bad. Who knew what those hands had done? However, Tang San was caught red-handed by Xiaojiang. Tang San and Xiaojiang both glanced at Ye Qiu and didn't think it was strange. It was normal for children to be afraid of strangers, no surprises. Ye Qiu and Tang San were both taken away by Xiaojiang. Walking in the college, Ye Qiu looked around curiously. "Teacher, thank you." Tang San, on the other hand, seemed to sense something special about the master and thanked him. "Teacher." Xiaojiang murmured, looked at Tang San deeply, and then quietly stopped. "I'm not a teacher in this academy." "But didn't you just say you represented the academy?" Tang San asked doubtfully. Xiaojiang laughed and said, "Who said that only teachers from this college can represent the college?" Hearing this, Ye Qiu couldn't help but secretly rolled his eyes. These words were really shameless. "Then who are you?" Chapter 5 7 Houses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiaojiang helped Tang San up and held his little hand again. His eyes drifted towards Ye Qiu. "Looking at the martial arts certificate, your name is Ye Qiu, right?" Ye Qiu nodded numbly, as if he hadn't recovered yet. "Although I have never seen your martial spirit, I think it should be a mutated martial spirit. Otherwise, as a commoner, you would definitely not be able to awaken your innate full soul power. I wonder. Are you willing to become my teacher?" He, Xiaojiang, has always been diligent and frugal, never leaving a grain of rice in his bowl, and has a lot of innate soul power. Although he is not as good as Tang San, he can still cultivate Tang San for himself and eliminate a lot of troubles. In just a few words, he made an analysis and wanted to adopt a godson. Tang San also looked at Ye Qiu, as his father's plan to win over him and become his senior brother seemed to be a very effective shortcut. Hearing this, Ye Qiu shook his head crazily, looking at the bump on Tang San's forehead. His eyes seemed a little frightened. No, I like an unfettered life. Except for daily practice and study, I will not restrain you at other times." Xiaojiang explained. Even so, Ye Qiu didn't want to be his guinea pig and shook his head decisively. Xiaojiang frowned, and the pride in his heart made him no longer persist. "Well, in the world of soul masters, a person can only recognize one master in his life. You should really think about it, that this was a double entendre." It seemed that he was telling Ye Qiu, but in fact he was telling Tang San, "You kid can't get rid of me." Looking at Ye Qiu, Tang San's eyes flashed with disappointment, but he suddenly said, "Ye Qiu, as a friend, I hope you can help me keep the secret of my twin martial souls. Don't worry, my mouth is tight." Ye Qiu looked at the two people staring at him and nodded quickly. "I'm afraid that if I agree slowly, Lord Tang Buddha will judge me as a way to die." "Okay, come with me, I'll take you to report." Xiaojiang nodded with satisfaction and pulled Tang San towards the reporting place. Ye Qiu quickly followed and wiped the non-existent cold sweat on his forehead. I couldn't imagine it. In this way, he became a one-sided friend of Lord Tang Buddha. Soon, Xiaojiang sent Ye Qiu and Tang San to the reporting place and then left. The two received their school uniforms and walked to their dormitories. That's where it all started. Qi Sha. As soon as he arrived in front of the dormitory door was open, and Ye Qiu also heard the frolicking coming from inside. His black eyes flashed, and he fell behind Tang San without a trace. Following Tang San, he walked in. As soon as I entered the door, my first impression was that it was spacious. There were dozens of beds, but they were just beds. Only 11 of them had bedding. At this time, there were 7 or 8 children between the ages of 8 and 12 playing around. Tuck tuck. Ye Qiu watched quietly as Tang San knocked on the door next to him. Hearing the noise, the children who were playing immediately turned their eyes over. Looking back at Ye Qiu and the other two, the children looked at each other and focused their attention on one of the older children. I think that must be Wanxiang. Ye Qiu thought to himself, holding the school uniform and standing behind Tang San with peace of mind. I saw that man slowly walking out from the crowd of children, looking at Tang San and then at Ye Qiu. Although the clothes on Ye Qiu's and Ye Qiu's bodies were relatively neat, they were heavily patched, making it easy to guess their identities. He was 2 heads taller than Tang San, and his figure was relatively burly. He walked up to Tang San and the two of them and said somewhat condescendingly, "A new work-study student?" "Hello, we are work-study students from Saint Soul Village." Tang San nodded slightly, with a kind smile on his face. "Hello." Ye Qiu also greeted Wanxiang in a friendly manner when he caught Wanxiang's gaze. Wanxiang nodded and crossed his arms, looking quite proud. "Let's get to know each other. My name is Wanxiang, Wuhuan Zhanhu, the future fighting soul master. I am the leader here. Boy, what are your names?" "What is Wuhuan?" "My name is Tang San, and my martial spirit is blue silver grass." Tang San frowned and said calmly, "Lan Yin Chao. When can such useless martial arts be cultivated?" Wanxiang looked extremely surprised, and most of the children in the dormitory laughed together. Before Ye Qiu could speak, Wanxiang couldn't wait any longer. "Okay, mistress. I will be your boss from now on. As long as you are obedient, I will. My name is Tang San, not Xia Sanzi." Tang San's face turned cold, and before Wanxiang could finish speaking, he interrupted him. At the same time, he glanced at Ye Qiu behind him. Ye Qiu pursed his lips. "As a friend, what's wrong with calling him mistress?" "I'll call you mistress. What? Aren't you convinced? If you have the ability, you can beat me. If you beat me, I'll call you boss." Wanxiang raised his hand and pushed Tang San on the shoulder, causing Tang San to take 2 steps back. Ye Qiu smiled. "Ye Qiu, help me get it." Tang San also smiled, shook his head gently, turned around and put the school uniform in his hand into Ye Qiu's hand. In order to be happy and study hard here, Tang San decided to return Wanxiang's threat. "Bring it on," he waved to Wanxiang arrogantly. "Okay." Wanxiang shouted, and immediately punched Tang San. Suddenly, he found that Tang San in front of him had disappeared. Ye Qiu could see clearly that Tang San had already taken a quick step, and with a graceful turn, he was already behind Wanxiang. The two of them had their backs to each other and without turning around, they hit Wanxiang on the waist with an elbow. At the same time, they stumbled and Wanxiang fell out before he could react. Fortunately, he was not small and could hold his foot firmly, otherwise he might have been thrown to pieces. "You little mistress. I'm looking for a fight." Being beaten by a child, Wanxiang was furious, and a yellow halo suddenly appeared on his body. A tiger-like roar came from his mouth, and his attributes such as strength and speed were greatly improved. "Did you use martial arts?" Ye Qiu's eyes flashed brightly. The mecha's eyes seemed to have built-in insight capabilities. Ye Qiu could still clearly see the movements of the two people. Tang San's eyes turned cold. Although he was curious about the power of the martial spirit, he was not afraid either. Not to mention the Tang Sec's unique skills, his strength of swinging the forging hammer thousands of times was enough to deal with it calmly. Wanxiang neatly jumped in front of Tang San and punched him in the face. Tang San reached out his hand, and with a flick of his wrist, he released all the force. Wanxiang felt a pain in his wrist and could not move. Suddenly, a strange force came and his arm was swung away. Tang San put his knee on his belly to teach him how to behave. "Ah!" In Wanxiang's exclamation, he was directly thrown over the shoulder by Tang San and thrown to the ground. Tang San didn't want the relationship to get too tense, so he put his foot on the back of his head. "Can we talk properly now?" Tang San used the grappling technique to pinch his wrist and said calmly. "Little one." Tang San, yes, yes. Wanxiang, who was still about to utter arrogant words, immediately screamed after Tang San started to use his strength. Hearing Wanxiang's name, Tang San let him go. Chapter 6 Xiao Wu arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tang San, is your martial spirit really blue silver grass? Wanxiang got up from the ground, flexing his wrists with lingering fear. Of course, not hearing what he heard, Tang San raised his right hand, a faint blue light emerged from his palm, and it turned out to be a swaying grass. Tang San told the students in the dormitory the truth, and he was not lying. Then you are so strong. This was not only the doubt of Wanxiang, but also the doubt of other people in the dormitory. Because he is born with full soul power. And he's the third young master of the Tang clan. Ye Qiu's voice came from behind Tang San, and at the same time, he added the second half of the sentence from the bottom of his heart. What? Innate soul power. Wanxiang's expression changed drastically, and other students in the dormitory were also in an uproar. They never imagined that among the work-study students, there would be geniuses full of innate soul power. Ye Qiu. Tang San looked at Ye Qiu and frowned. Xiantian Baolu told him to never expose his full strength in front of others, although it is true that such things as innate soul power cannot be hidden. He is still a little unhappy with Ye Qiu. Ye Qiu ignored him and already held the clothes in his hands and placed them on the empty bed next to him. A complicated light flashed in Wanxiang's eyes, a mixture of envy and pity. Tang San, I'm really sorry just now. This is what every newcomer will encounter. We work-study students are often bullied by other students, so we must unite together. Tang San couldn't help but smile. So, you just wanted to give me a blow? Then you could contain me. Ye Qiu didn't have the time to listen to them talking about these non-nutritious things. He was anxious, and he had already asked the student next to him about the location of the toilet. Mistress, I'm going to drain the excess water from my body first. Let's talk slowly. Well, let's go. After saying hello to Tang San, Ye Qiu ran outside. He had to finish the matter quickly and come back to compete for the position of boss. He was unsure about dealing with Tang San, but Ye Qiu thought he would have no problem dealing with the rogue rabbit. Wanxiang, who was interrupted by Ye Qiu, blushed and showed a somewhat embarrassed smile. It was you who gave me a blow. Now that you have defeated me, you will be the boss of our Qixia from now on. Tang San quickly waved his hand to refuse, saying, I'm here to learn. Seeing that Tang San wanted to shirk, Wanxiang had no choice but to lift up his clothes, wanting to show Tang San some color. I saw large bruises on his body and arms. A bitter smile appeared on Wanxiang's lips. These were all made yesterday when I first arrived at the college. People in other dormitories often bully us working-study students. As the boss of the dormitory, I have to shoulder the responsibility of standing up for and protecting the brothers. Responsibility, I wish I could give this responsibility to you. The students in the other dormitories also kept nodding, looking at Tang San hopefully. The weak could only rely on the stronger. After Wanxiang and the others showed affection and reason, Tang San also took over the position of the boss of Qixia, no longer declining, and nodded slightly. That being the case, then naturally I won't see people in the same dormitory being bullied. At this moment, a clear and sweet voice suddenly came from the door of Qixia. Is this Qixia? Everyone looked at the door at the same time, and they suddenly showed dumbfounded expressions and froze in place. I saw a pretty little girl standing outside the door. She seemed to be about the same age and height as Tang San. She had a scorpion braid on her back. Tang San, who had just become the boss, couldn't help but raise his hand to cover his mouth, and asked Wanxiang, do we live together between men and women here? Wanxiang nodded blankly, his eyes not moving at all, and he also lowered his voice and said, there are 40 or 50 beds in this room. It is such a big space. The college is not a charity hall, and everyone is still young. I heard that the distinction is only made when you reach the Intermediate Soul Master Academy. While speaking, Wanxiang also came to his senses and poked Tang San's waist. Boss, come on. Give her a blow. Ah. Isn't it necessary? Tang San also didn't expect that he would take action against a pink little girl just after he became the boss. The little girl at the door blinked her big innocent eyes and frowned slightly. Seeing that no one was paying attention to her inside, she had no choice but to look up at the sign on the door that read Qi Shi, and her frown deepened. Can't I go in? Seeing this scene, Wanxiang was also a little anxious, and kept poking Tang San's waist to signal him not to break the rules. Tang San had no choice but to walk forward and stand in front of her. Hello, I'm Tang San, the boss here. It's like this. Our Qixia has a rule. New work-study students must show their strength. So, I want to compete with you. Sparring? Are you sure? At the mention of sparring, the little girl's crimson eyes suddenly lit up. Okay. Tang San nodded lightly. Okay, let's do it. The little girl showed a bit of excitement on her face and placed the school uniform she was holding on the empty bed beside her. He turned to look at Tang San and briefly introduced himself. My name is Xiao Wu, Dancing Wu, my martial spirit is a rabbit, that kind of cute little white rabbit. I am born with full soul power. How about you? That when he spoke, 2 cute dimples appeared on his face, which was indescribably moving. Tang San, who was addicted to hidden weapons in his previous life and had little contact with the opposite sex, was immediately stunned, but Wanxiang and others exploded again. He is actually another person with innate soul power. Huh? Xiao Wu glanced at Wanxiang and others strangely, and then looked at Tang San. Oh, my martial soul is blue silver grass, and it is also full of innate soul power. Tang San was stunned and quickly replied. Blue silver grass. Can this kind of martial spirit be born with full soul power? Xiao Wu tilted her head and looked at Tang San with some surprise, although it was strange, she just complained a little bit. Then let's get started, she greeted Tang San happily, and before he could react, her right leg had already been raised from the knee, and her toes popped out instantly, like doing a split. Her left foot was still in place, and the toes of her right foot were already poking at Tang San. It didn't look like it was very powerful, but it was very fast, which startled Tang San, but Tang San quickly reacted, cheered up, and immediately stepped back quickly. Xiao Wu kicked off her left foot, but she continued to fly towards him. Her light body flew through the air, and a jade foot had already swept towards Tang San's head. Snap. Xiao Wu's ankle was caught in Tang San's hand. He also noticed that Xiao Wu was unusual, so he became a little more serious and threw her away with his backhand. Chapter 7 Meeting the Rogue Rabbit for the first time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? The onlookers exclaimed, thinking that such a delicate girl was about to have close contact with the floor. However, Xiao Wu twisted her body and landed firmly, which surprised Tang San, who had originally planned to step forward to help him, call out. Xiao Wu didn't know what martial virtue was, so unexpectedly, she pressed her little hands on the ground to use her strength to jump up high, and used a deadly scissor kick to pinch Tang San's head directly. Snapped. Tang San was not a vegetarian either. He easily blocked Xiao Wu's attack with both hands. Even when her feet were blocked, Xiao Wu didn't stop attacking. Using her waist and head together, his whole body seemed to be folded up, and the long scorpion braid was thrown towards Tang San's dark face. So fast. Tang San marveled in his heart, let go of his hand, and was about to retreat, but it was already too late. Xiao Wu's little feet had already hooked the back of his neck. Snapped. The scorpion braid was thrown on Tang San's face mercilessly, leaving a red mark. The burning pain on his face made him take a breath, take advantage of his illness to kill him. Xiao Wu immediately landed on the ground and kicked his chin from bottom to top. Baiu. Tang San screamed, flew high into the air, drew a graceful arc in the air, and landed on the ground with a plop. Just as he was about to stand up, Xiao Wu had already stepped forward, stepping all over Tang San, looking down at Tang San with an extremely proud look on his face. How about it, I won. Looking at Xiao Wu who was trampling him under his feet, Tang San smiled bitterly. There was no need to be a swindler. He had no feelings for this boss position, so he explained. Well, I lost. According to our rules, if you beat me, you will be the boss of Qixia from now on. Boss? Xiao Wu's eyes showed a hint of surprise, not much surprise, but more excitement. It seems like fun. Okay. Then I will be your boss from now on. She was used to being the eldest sister in front of Deming and Ming, and she quickly fell into the role. He inserted his waist and shouted loudly to Wanxiang and others, listen up, you guys, from now on I will be your boss. I am Xiao Wu. Anyone who dances will have to call me Sister Xiao Wu from now on. Come on, call me quickly and listen. that unexpectedly, Tang San would lose to Xiao Wu. Wanxiang and others recovered from the shock and quickly shouted to Xiao Wu in unison. "Hello, Sister Xiao Wu." "Okay. Hello." Xiao Wu was excited. She didn't expect that she would be a big sister in the human world. "Xiao Wu, can you let me go?" At this time, a feeble voice came from under her feet. Although Xiao Wu was not heavy, Tang San was still just a child. Xiao Wu was stunned for a moment, feeling that her feet were not very solid, so she lowered her head and looked down. It turned out that Tang San was still stepped on by him. "Ah! I even forgot about you." Xiao Wu smiled, stepped lightly, and jumped to the ground, not forgetting to remind Tang San. "Remember to call me Miss Wu." Tang San smiled bitterly and silently got up. It was impossible for him to call her sister. "Thank you." Hearing this, Xiao Wu chuckled, "Huh. You are quite interesting. Even if I beat you like this, you are not angry. In fact, you even thanked me." Outside Ye Qiu, who was holding up his belt and had just finished taking off his pants, heard a chorus of greetings coming from inside before he could reach the door. He walked forward quickly, and when he saw the scene clearly, Ye Qiu was stunned for a moment, with a look of surprise in his eyes. "I saw a pretty little girl trampling Tang San under her feet." Surprisingly, Lord Tang Buddha didn't resist yet. "Is this the 100,000-year-old rogue rabbit Xiao Wu? It looks good." Ye Qiu secretly thought in his heart, with a bit of surprise flashing in his eyes. "I saw Xiao Wu. Her pretty little face was white and rosy, and her pink and tender appearance was like a ripe peach, which made people have the urge to take a bite. Although her clothes were very simple, she looked very neat. Her long black hair was combed into a scorpion braid hanging down over her hips, a pair of big watery eyes showed novelty. As soon as she stepped on the ground, she also noticed Ye Qiu looking at her at the door. He has short black hair, big black pearl-like eyes, fair face, and is wearing patchwork burlap clothes." Seeing someone coming, Xiao Wu pointed at Ye Qiu at the door, and asked excitedly to the Pilgrim King, "Is he new here too?" Wanxiang was stunned for a moment. Although Ye Qiu came with Tang San, he had indeed not been inspected yet, so he nodded. "That's good." Xiao Wu's face was full of surprise, and she raised her finger directly towards Ye Qiu. It's you. What are you looking at? Come over here and ask for a beating." Seeing Xiao Wu's domineering look, Ye Qiu couldn't help but have a few black lines appear on his forehead. He could only say that he was indeed a rogue rabbit. "I don't know if she would be so out of touch if she knew that Tang San and I were a title Douluo." Tang San watched quietly from the side and didn't say anything to stop it. As someone with the same innate soul power as himself, he also wanted to see Ye Qiu's strength. After all, Ye Qiu came with Tang San. So Wanxiang also started to explain because he was afraid that he might not understand the situation. "This is Sister Xiao Wu. She just defeated Tang San and became our new boss." Ye Qiu shrugged and slowly walked into the dormitory, not forgetting to give Tang San a squeeze. "Mistress, I just went to drain the water. Why is your position as the boss no longer available?" Tang San twitched his lips. "He just didn't bother bullying a girl," he said calmly. "If you think you can do it, you can give it a try. Maybe you can defeat Xiao Wu and become the boss of Qixia." "Yes, Tang San is right. As long as you defeat Sister Xiao Wu, the position of boss will be yours." Xiao Wu's crimson eyes were looking at Ye Qiu with great interest. "Okay. You can't cheat then. How can a man say no?" Ye Qiu curled his lips and accepted the competition with a smile. "Sister Xiao Wu will not be a swindler. What is your name and what is your martial spirit?" Xiao Wu jumped to a slightly wider position and asked with a smile. Ye Qiu stood opposite her, looking her up and down. "My name is Ye Qiu, my martial soul is the 10,000 phase armor, and I am innately full of soul power." "You are actually born with full soul power?" Xiao Wu looked at Ye Qiu in surprise, tapping her chin lightly with her index finger. 10,000 phase armor. What kind of martial spirit is that? What? Another innate soul power? The other students in Qixia were in an uproar again, and Wanxiang was almost shocked. Unexpectedly, there were not even a single work-study student last year. but this year there were 3, and they were all innately full of soul power. This is simply God's plan to make him happy. Facing Xiao Wu's question, Ye Qiu just raised his finger at her and looked at her arrogantly. If you want to know what my martial spirit looks like, you'll know if you beat it. Please read the new book. I wish you all a happy life. Chapter 8 Xiao Wu vs Ye Qiu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just fight. My name is Xiao Wu, Dancing Wu, my martial spirit is a soft-bone rabbit, and I am also innately full of soul power. Seeing that Ye Qiu actually dared to challenge her, Xiao Wu briefly introduced herself, then a pair of pink and tender rabbit ears stood up on her head, and there was a small pink and white tail on her lower back. Here we go. As he spoke, a cunning look appeared on his face, and without waiting for Ye Qiu's response, he kicked his legs like a rabbit and started to launch. He jumped up in the air, turned around in the air, and kicked Ye Qiu's chest directly with his 2 feet. Damn rabbit, you sneak attack. Ye Qiu was shocked. Fortunately, he was on guard against this guy with no martial ethics. His eyes lit up and blue lines appeared on his body, flowing like liquid. Quietly, white and blue steel armor covered Ye Qiu's body. The sharp edges and corners looked full of attack power. The brilliance of the body surface flowed, and the streamlined design was integrated into one. Click. As a subtle voice sounded in Ye Qiu's ears, the visor covered Ye Qiu's face. A heavy feeling came over me, and in just a moment, the possession of the 10,000 phase armor was completed. At this time, Xiao Wu's rabbit kick had already reached Ye Qiu's eyes, but in Ye Qiu's shining eyes, her movement seemed to slow down. There was even some basic data obtained by Ye Qiu, such as the size of the well-proportioned jade feet. Bang! Ye Qiu crossed his arms in front of him and blocked Xiao Wu's attack. The heavy mecha only made Ye Qiu take 2 steps back. The superior defense of the Wanxiang armor also prevented Ye Qiu from being harmed. What is this? After rolling in the air, Xiao Wu calmly landed on the ground and looked at Ye Qiu in confusion. So hot. Wanxiang looked at the iron warrior that Ye Qiu had transformed into, with stars almost popping out of his eyes. The concave and convex, sharp edges and corners, and the slender blue-white mecha are like a living weapon. The other students in the dormitory also nodded in agreement. Sure enough, no matter which world they are in, boys can't resist the temptation of mechas. This is my martial spirit. Ye Qiu's mechanical voice sounded, but he had already rushed towards Xiao Wu. Just now you actually dared to call Sister Xiao Wu a dead rabbit. Let's see if I don't deal with you. Xiao Wu pursed her lips, without the slightest fear. Her jutsu skills are not a vegetarian. Looking at Ye Qiu's straight punch with no technical content, Tang San shook his head. He is still a child after all, and he fights like a child, with no skills at all. Ye Qiu hit Xiao Wu's delicate face with an iron fist. The mecha's eyes couldn't help but flicker. Ye Qiu also frowned, and his fist was always a little far away from Xiao Wu's face. He mobilized a little soul power in his body, and the movements of his hands accelerated sharply. I saw Xiao Wu blinking his crimson eyes, with a smile on his lips, and lowered his waist directly. His lower body was upright, but his upper body was already lying down, leaving Ye Qiu to jump away. At the same time, Xiao Wu also stretched out her hands, put them on the ground, and then lifted her feet off the ground, as if she was doing a somersault on the spot. With the help of both hands, his 2 legs attacked directly below Ye Qiu and kicked Ye Qiu directly on the chin. With this iron knot, Xiao Wu doesn't have to worry about it making Ye Qiu unable to get out of bed. At this time, Ye Qiu had just punched hard and had no time to retract his body, but he would not let Xiao Wu kick his sharp chin. If you can't take it back, then don't take it. What? Soon after, Ye Qiu bumped directly into Xiao Wu, and she screamed in surprise while she was still standing upside down. He immediately bent his arms, gave up attacking Ye Qiu, and rolled back. After standing still, he patted his small chest and looked at Ye Qiu with lingering fear. Little rabbit, come again. Ye Qiu hooked his fingers again and made a sound like he wanted to be beaten. Ah! See if Sister Xiao Wu doesn't beat you to death. Ye Qiu called him a rabbit several times, and Xiao Wu went a little crazy. Seeing Ye Qiu charging towards him, he kicked him again, but he was shocked and kept retreating. Thinking of this, she didn't dare to confront Ye Qiu head-on. Instead, she kept beating and wandered around Ye Qiu. Ye Qiu continued to pounce. Although his speed was much faster than usual due to the bonus of the mecha, he was still somewhat powerless when facing the rogue rabbit that escaped. The sound of his rapid breathing came to his ears, and Ye Qiu also understood that with his current soul power, he couldn't hold on for much longer. If you want to catch her, you have to wait and wait. After exerting all his energy, Ye Qiu once again used the double dragon move to hit Xiao Wu's small body. Xiao Wu snorted coldly, immediately jumped up high, jumped directly over Ye Qiu's head, and landed behind Ye Qiu. Her feet had already been locked on Ye Qiu's head before. It was uneven and hard, making it impossible to use soft skills well. Therefore, Xiao Wu, who seized the opportunity, shook the back of his head. The long scorpion braid, like a long snake, was directly wrapped around Ye Qiu's neck. The winner has been decided. Tang San smiled lightly, having a certain understanding of Ye Qiu's strength. It shouldn't be difficult to defeat Wanxiang, but the fighting skills are too stretched, and he doesn't know how to use his strength even though he has it. Humph. Xiao Wu smiled coldly, and immediately pushed her right foot back on Ye Qiu's butt, then bent down and threw Ye Qiu into the sky, giving him a violent slam. It's a pity, how could Ye Qiu let her get her wish? As soon as he felt his neck tighten, Ye Qiu turned around under the surprised gazes of Tang San, Wanxiang and others. He opened his arms and wanted to give Xiao Wu a bear hug. Xiao Wu was about to bend down and stick out her buttocks, using her soft skills, but she found a cold feeling on her buttocks, and she couldn't even push her legs back. Ye Qiu was already close, pressing behind her, clinging to her, interrupting her skill. Please let me go. Let me go. Xiao Wu, who was about to escape, exclaimed, and was hugged by Ye Qiu. Two angular mecha arms covered with cold steel armor locked Xiao Wu tightly in his arms. Hurry up and let go of Sister Xiao Wu, or I'll beat you to death. Let go of me. No matter how Xiao Wu struggled, it was all in vain under the absolute power. Don't let me go. Unless you admit defeat, I will let you go. Ye Qiu's magnetic voice sounded in Xiao Wu's ears. The Wanxiang armor does not block Ye Qiu's touch. He hugs the soft girl tightly in his arms, and Ye Qiu's face inside the mecha can't help but show a bit of comfort, as expected of a soft-bone rabbit. His body is as soft as a boneless rabbit, and it feels so good to hold him in his arms. Don't even think about it. Sister Xiao Wu will never admit defeat. Xiao Wu kept struggling. Her face was extremely hot, and a little sweat had already appeared on her forehead. Please read the new book. I wish you all a happy life. Chapter 9, Killing with Sister in Arms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay. If you don't admit defeat, I won't let you go. Ye Qiu smiled. Don't let go at this time, otherwise it will be bad if you get beaten later. Seeing the two people deadlocked, Wanxiang and Tang San looked at each other. I'm so angry. Xiao Wuqi's face turned red, and Ye Qiu's uneven body made her feel a little pain. Being locked up like this felt very aggrieved. Sister Xiao Wu, I will trample you to death, trample you to death. The little feet suddenly started to move, stepping on Ye Qiu's insteps. Ye Qiu's teasing voice sounded. Don't waste your efforts, I don't feel any pain at all. Xiao Wu also noticed this. This bastard was hiding in that turtle shell, but it hurt her own heels. Little rabbit, give in quickly. Ye Qiu hugged Xiao Wu tightly, not daring to relax at all. Don't think about it, go to hell. Xiao Wu's temper was completely detonated by the sound of the little rabbit, and he threw his head back hard, startling Ye Qiu. Puff. It hurts so much. After a muffled sound, there was a scream. Ye Qiu's mask was not made of mud. Xiao Wu felt like a big bump had been knocked out of his head, and a few tears squeezed out of his big crimson eyes. The two slender calves kept flapping and struggling. You bastard. Let go of Sister Xiao Wu. Sister Xiao Wu is going to beat you to death. Woo. Don't let me go, I won't let you go. Unless you admit defeat. Ye Qiu tightened his arms again. No. I don't want to admit defeat. Xiao Wu gritted her teeth and glanced back fiercely. Ye Qiu. At this time, Tang San couldn't stand it any longer and couldn't help shouting. Ye Qiu, why don't you let Xiao Wu go? She is a little girl after all. It's really despicable of you to do this. Mean? Ye Qiu couldn't help but rolled his eyes in the mecha. Compared to the vicious hidden weapons of your Tang clan, he was upright after all. To be despicable, it's not your turn to teach me a lesson, right? I think so in my heart, but I can't say it with my mouth. Xiao San, you heard everything just now. If I let her go, she will beat me to death. How can this be okay? Yi Qiu's voice was filled with fear, and he shook his head like a rattle, sternly refusing. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. Tang San was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at Xiao Wu. Shut up, Sister Xiao Wu will never spare him. Just as he was about to say something, Xiao Wu yelled, seeing how angry Xiao Wu was, most likely she wouldn't listen to him, so Tang San could only helplessly shake his head and close his mouth. Ah. Xiao Wu tried her best and struggled continuously, beads of sweat began to fall from her forehead. After a while, he was already out of breath. Ye Qiu, who was as steady as an old dog, suddenly said something bad in his heart. There was not much soul power left in his body. Looking at Xiao Wu, who was unable to struggle, the black eyes flashed under the visor, and the corner of his mouth showed a hint of teasing. Little rabbit, do you admit defeat or not? You, don't even think about it. Xiao Wu bent over and gasped, speaking a little awkwardly and out of breath. If that's the case, then don't blame me, Yi Qiu sneered, and immediately turned her body around while she was not being taken advantage of. Ah, you, what are you going to do? Let me go quickly. Xiao Wu looked at the dazzling eyes and steely face in front of her, and danced around in a panic. Ye Qiu ignored her, but slowly and tentatively let go of one hand. The little rabbit had no strength now and was just twisting and struggling. When Ye Qiu completely let go of one hand, a successful smile appeared on his lips. Ye Qiu's martial spirit possessed him, and after putting on the Wanxiang armor, his body was much larger than Xiao Wu's. Hold the rabbit's small body with one hand. Asked, let me ask you one last time, do you admit defeat or not? Sister Xiao Wu will not admit defeat. Let me go quickly. You can't hold on any longer, right? Xiao Wu also noticed that the force restraining her had become much weaker. Immediately he felt a little proud again. Humph, wait a minute, Sister Xiao Wu will beat you to death. Ah, ugh, snapped. Ye Qiu's free hand quickly patted her buttocks, and the touch was instant. There was a crisp sound, and Xiao Wu suddenly let out a cry, her face turned red, and it slowly spread to her neck. Tang San, Wanxiang and others also looked at this scene in shock. When Xiao Wu first arrived, they stared straight in the eyes. They didn't expect Ye Qiu to take action directly. What are you doing? Let go of Sister Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu suddenly panicked, yelled, and struggled nervously. Whenever you admit defeat, I will let you go. Ye Qiu hugged her tightly with one hand, but the other hand had already removed the mecha. Of course, this kind of thing cannot be done through the mecha. Ye Qiu is also afraid that he cannot control his strength. The little hand slapped Xiao Wu's butt directly. Xiao Wu also struggled in panic and opened her mouth to stop her. Ah, stop it. Whoops. Unfortunately, Ye Qiu ignored her words and slapped the soft flesh again and again. Clap clap. Every 2 strokes, Ye Qiu would ask her. Do you admit defeat or not? Don't even think about it, Sister Xiao Wu will definitely beat you to death. Aha. Xiao Wu blushed, bit her red lips, and glared at Ye Qiu stubbornly. Snapped. Ye Qiu waved again and asked again. Gradually, Xiao Wu in her arms was covered in sweat and she no longer had the strength to struggle. After 2 more blows, and when Ye Qiu asked again, Xiao Wu finally couldn't bear it anymore. A soft and tender voice sounded. No. That when Ye Qiu heard the word no, he hit it again out of habit. Before Ye Qiu could ask a question, Xiao Wu's voice came quickly. No. Stop fighting, Sister Xiao Wu. Sister Xiao Wu has given up, Wu Wu. Sister Xiao Wu has given up. Hearing this, Ye Qiu felt happy at first, and then was stunned for a moment. I saw that the rogue rabbit at this time was already in a state of despair, with tears streaming from the corners of his eyes, and a look of resentment in his eyes. Seeing her look like this, there was still hatred in her eyes. For the sake of his own personal safety, Ye Qiu couldn't bear it, but he still lowered his hand, snapped. "Ah, Sister Xiao Wu, I've given up, I've given up. Stop fighting." Xiao Wu cried and quickly begged for mercy. Ye Qiu asked back, "Where did you admit defeat? You still dare to call yourself Sister Xiao Wu? Hurry up and call Brother Sheng to come and listen." "I don't. Ah." Not hearing the answer he wanted, Ye Qiu gave him a few more slaps. "No. I'm screaming, I'm screaming." Xiao Wu had already started sobbing, and the burning pain on her but made her start to give in. "Okay, scream louder for me." Ye Qiu was also panting a little, almost unable to hold on any longer. Xiao Wu bit her red lips and clenched her fists, as if she was ashamed. She closed her eyes and shed 2 lines of tears, her pink lips slowly moving, struggling to spit out a few characters. "Brother. Please read the new book. I wish you all a happy life." Chapter 10 Becoming the Boss of House 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at Xiao Wu's pear-shaped expression, Tang San frowned, feeling a little weird in his heart for some reason. Hearing Xiao Wu's cry, Ye Qiu felt as if he had drank a glass of iced sour plum soup, which was indescribably sour and refreshing. "I told you to shout louder, let's shout again." After tasting the sweetness, Ye Qiu was still a little dissatisfied and raised his hand again. "No. Stop fighting, I'm screaming, I'm screaming." Wu. As soon as Xiao Wu opened her mouth to beg for mercy, Tang San couldn't help but jump out. "Ye Qiu, don't go too far. What's the point of bullying a little girl?" "Little girl?" Ye Qiu's mouth twitched, his thoughts relaxed, and his body suddenly felt light. The all-purpose armor on his body suddenly collapsed and turned into little bits of light, submerging into Ye Qiu's body. His face turned pale and there was some sweat on his forehead. He really couldn't hold it on any longer. Xiao Wu also fell into Ye Qiu's arms. Even though Ye Qiu was no longer pressing her down forcefully, she still clung to Ye Qiu's body and kept sobbing. Gritting his teeth, he pulled Ye Qiu's clothes and shed all his tears on Ye Qiu. Even though his soul power was exhausted, Ye Qiu still maintained his momentum and glanced at Tang San lightly. "Well, since she has admitted defeat, I will give you face and not embarrass her." "Then why don't you let Xiao Wu go quickly?" Tang San snorted coldly and frowned, just as he was about to go over and help Xiao Wu away from Ye Qiu's arms. However, Ye Qiu was one step ahead of him, hugged Xiao Wu's waist, and slowly walked towards an empty bed. At this time, Xiao Wu had run out of energy to cry and let Ye Qiu hug her like a puppet on strings. "Okay, just sit here and rest for a while." Ye Qiu reached out to Xiao Wu's armpits, held her small body, and slowly made her sit on the edge of the bed. "Aha!" As soon as Xiao Wu put her down, she let out a whimper, pain flashed across her face, and she raised her head and glared at Ye Qiu in shame and anger. Fortunately, Ye Qiu only spanked one buttock, otherwise she would have been really restless. "Haha! You still want to beat me, right? But you definitely can't beat me now." Ye Qiu looked at her rosy little face, which was covered with dirty tears. Although it was haggard, it was still pink and tender. He couldn't help but stretched out his hand to squeeze her little face. "Ugh, let me go." Xiao Wu pouted, trying to resist, and the tears in her eyes were about to squeeze out again, but her hands were placed on the edge of the bed to support her body. When she relaxed a little, her swollen but felt a little painful. "Ye Qiu." Tang San also wanted to stop him. "Okay. Mistress, shouldn't you change your title now? I will be the boss of this Qisha from now on. You have to call me boss from now on." Ye Qiu had already relaxed, walked up to Tang San, and patted his shoulder with a smile. Tang San frowned and was about to speak when he was interrupted by Ye Qiu. "Haha. Mistress, don't be so serious. I was just joking with you." Ye Qiu is still very self-aware, so he can't jump too much now. Otherwise, what if Tang San suddenly says he wants to challenge him? "Then I am the boss, my butt is not yet warm." so I have to hand it over. Wanxiang, what are you looking at? Call me and listen. Ye Qiu looked over Tang San and looked at Wanxiang and others behind him. Wanxiang and others looked at each other, but still shouted to Ye Qiu, "Hello, boss," that this is not only because of the rules of Qixia, but also because Ye Qiu is innately full of soul power. Not only him, but also Xiao Wu and Tang San. No matter who becomes the boss, Wanxiang and others have no objection. They have placed the three on equal footing. Okay, okay. Ye Qiu yelled twice in a row. No wonder Xiao Wu likes to be the eldest sister so much. It's really refreshing to be called like this. Tang San looked at Ye Qiu's triumphant look and couldn't help but shook his head slightly, not wanting to care about it. In the future, I will conquer him with my strength and charisma. Unfortunately, what he didn't know was that Ye Qiu had already known about his personality charm, and he could only say that he really didn't dare to compliment him. Sensing Tang San's movement, Ye Qiu also wiped the sweat from his forehead with a guilty conscience. Feeling a little weak, Ye Qiu walked to the empty bed next to him, took out a pink lollipop from his package, and put it in his mouth. It's sweet and tastes like carrots. Xiao Wu, are you okay? Tang San walked up to Xiao Wu, with a slightly concerned look in his eyes. What can happen to Sister Xiao Wu? Humph! Even the bones of the soft bone rabbit are soft, but they have a tough mouth. Xiao Wu glared at Tang San coldly, then ignored him. Instead, she gritted her back molars and stared at Ye Qiu. The lower half of her butt was still hot, and the corners of her eyes were still sparkling. Hitting the wall again, Tang San also laughed dryly, turned around and walked towards Wanxiang and the others. He's here to learn, and he can't do it even if he's put on the cold side. Wanxiang. Hey, third brother, what's the matter? Wanxiang responded, waiting for his instructions. They have already discussed it. These three people who came this year are the pillars of their work-study students. They are all brothers and sisters. Tang San frowned. This title made him feel a little uncomfortable. From now on, if they call themselves Boss Ye Qiu and third brother outside, wouldn't that mean they are really inferior to others? But he also understood what Wanxiang and the others called him. After all, he did have such a name, and he could have the same name as his previous life. He was also very satisfied with this name. It was not easy to say anything, so he smiled gently, covering up the trace of unhappiness on his face. Can you tell me about our college? Of course it's no problem. I happen to be free now. Wanxiang came to the college yesterday and packed his things. He patted his chest and agreed. Then, he talked about some situations at not in college. We working study students have to get our own living expenses. The college will arrange some cleaning work for us. There are 6 grades in the college. We have classes every morning and go to school on our own in the afternoon. Practice. Wanxiang gave Tang San a brief introduction to the other students in the dormitory. Among these people, Wanxiang was the most talented. He was now a 9th-level soul warrior. Ye Qiu, who was holding a lollipop and listening to Wanxiang's introduction, suddenly noticed a malicious look staring at him. Immediately he turned his head and saw that it was Xiao Wu Nazi. Ye Qiu smiled and stopped listening. Instead, he quietly came to Xiao Wu and sat down. What do you want to do? Sister Xiao Wu, I will not call you boss. Xiao Wu looked at Ye Qiu warily, trying to move his buttocks, but he couldn't. I was really sorry just now. Ye Qiu smiled softly, with a little apology in his eyes, and what he said made Xiao Wu confused. Please read the new book. I wish you all a happy life.